we have a basic desire to want, but that want could be not in the form that commercials tell us, right? So the commercials we see on TV and the constant message of our capitalist system is we are broken as human beings and we need to purchase things to be happy. That's how capitalism thrives, right? Is by us feeling incomplete and then we keep purchasing and purchasing.
Mhm.
And so if we are conscious of that message, that that's an intentional message for us to buy products, then we can constantly put in check what it truly is that makes us happy. And what that generally is being with family, with loved ones, going out in nature. It costs a little bit to drive out somewhere to do something unless it's right in your backyard.
Hello, Sobat Kokabuhi! Welcome back to our podcast series where we talk about how to engage the community for a better earth. I'm Nikita, your host who will guide you in this conversation. So, I'm so happy to tell you for today because in today's episode we will talk about the joyful thing. So, we will talk about how to be happier by living sustainably. Sometime in our life when we talk about sustainability, the thing that appear in our mind is about sacrificing, like such as we need to stop driving car or reduce eating meat or the other thing. But actually, we can find a lot of benefit, a lot of joyful thing by living sustainably. And today, I'm here with a professor and sustainable community specialist from Utah State University. And I watched her video in YouTube, and she is just become my role model of living sustainably because she has been work on sustainability for many years. And yeah, she also taught her kids and her own community on living sustainability. So I think it would be a joyful thing for you guys. So so without any further ado, let's welcome our special guest, Miss Roslyn. Hello, Miss Roslyn.
Hello, Nikita. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk with you about this topic and to your audience as well. So here we
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for coming here. It's a pleasure for me to having you. And yeah, I'm so happy to discuss about the sustainability with you. And yeah, so you teach in Utah State University, right? And in Utah, there are two permaculture garden, right? In Moab and Logan, right?
Yeah, we have two with the university, two main
Mm-hmm.
ones, and there
Mm-hmm.
are many gardens at different residences and organizations in the state, but it's a growing movement in Utah for sure.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us the environment in Utah? And I know that in Utah, Utah has a dry climate, right? And maybe
Yeah.
it's challenging to maintain the water availability. Can you tell us about Utah environment and the what maybe the water management or other interesting thing in there?
Yeah, Utah has a couple things going on that are a little unique with the environment. And so Utah
Mm-hmm.
is located in the United States in the Intermountain West region, so and the southwest area of the Intermountain West. So mountains are part of the landscape and also semi-arid desert. And it's very hot and dry in the summer, for example, but in the winter we could have snow and it's very cold. And so we have this huge range of temperature throughout the year. For example, right now in July, in the summer months, it's 38 degrees Celsius in Moab or 100 Fahrenheit. So very hot currently.
Oh.
So I said Moab. So I'm in the town of Moab, which is in the southeastern part of Utah in the sandstone desert. And so we're surrounded in Moab by sandstone rims and we're in a valley. And in Utah, many of the towns are in valleys with mountains on either side, which creates this scenario of air pollution being trapped in those valleys during especially the cold winter months when there's no storms coming through. All of the air pollution gets trapped down low and the cold air, and the hotter or warmer air gets stuck above. It's called the inversion that we experience in the state. And that is a big problem in Utah. The other thing that's unique about Utah is that we don't get a lot of rain. So on average, each year we get 24 centimeters of rain, or 9.5 inches.
Mhm.
Just to compare, as a point of comparison, in Indonesia, in the lowlands, you get 320 centimeters of rain, or 125 inches. And
Mhm.
in the mountainous areas, you can get up to 610 centimeters, or 240 inches of rain. So it's a huge difference with just 24 centimeters of rain a year. And just the importance of actually using every bit of precipitation that we get in the landscape. There's just a huge opportunity with that. So I don't see that as a shortcoming, how little rain we get. I actually see it as a benefit to really think about our water and how it flows and how to use that water effectively in our landscaping.
Mhm. Yeah, that's an interesting story that rather than thinking about that is really challenging, you still think about the positivity of your environment. And that's the thing that we are going to talk. And thank you for starting the thing with the positivity.
Yes, of course. It's what we all need more of in our lives.
Yeah. And talking about living sustainable, how do you define sustainable living? And can you tell us when were you aware of the importance of sustainably living?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't define sustainable living as a rigid set of rules, because our broader systems that we live in of capitalism generally around the world don't set us up to always be in sync with sustainable living. We naturally do pollute our environment and engage in behaviors like that. So how I define sustainability instead is as an everyday ethic to improve our environmental and social systems. It's a mindset where you're constantly thinking, how can I today better the environment around me as best as possible, and also the social systems, the human networks that are around me that depend on that environment to be healthy, to also be healthy inside our bodies, because we're so connected to our environment. So I use the nested egg concept of sustainability when I talk about it, for example. So that means that the environment serves as the base. We depend on that environment. We wouldn't survive without it. Within that environmental circle, if you envision it that way, is a smaller social circle where our social systems need to be healthy and thriving to best help our environment. And we also depend on that environment to live. And then within that is the financial systems we've created for ourselves. And right now that takes the form of capitalism. It could change over time, but that financial system is a social creation that's dependent as well on the environment. And so this all comes down to the environment as our basis of thinking. And so that's how I define it, as an everyday ethic. And where did I start thinking about this? I really, at a young age, had a strong connection to the environment. I was surrounded by a forest in my childhood home in Ontario, Canada, where I grew up. And I observed a lot of pressure from the cities around our small village growing, and development coming closer and closer. And I wanted to help preserve the forest and save it from pavement and development. And so that's really a part of where that passion started. And then in middle school, so around sixth grade through eighth grade, I learned about rainforest destruction, and I became very passionate about wanting to help save the rainforest and other forests around the world. And in fact, my PhD research ended up being in land conservation, because I wanted to look at what motivated people to conserve their land permanently from development. And Then also in middle school, I took part in an environmental play where we sang a song about helping the earth. And it really had an impact to me, which showed me the importance of early childhood education around healthy living and inspiring our youth to engage in sustainable behaviors. So I would say for me, this really has been a lifetime of thinking and passion. And I was so grateful that I could turn it into my career and teach people about it as part of my job. So yeah, definitely at a young age, it was present in my life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's wonderful to hear that when we talk about the sustainability, it also connected to our connection to the ecosystem. So we depend on our ecosystem. That's why we need to think about the sustainability. And yeah, I heard a lot of the scientists or the educators say that you are the expert from your local place, and I think your story, your experiment about your childhood until you passion to learn about the sustainability. That's the evidence of how we can be the expert for our local community, and we can contribute to our local community rather than just think about the capitalism that only think about money, but we can also think about how we actually can contribute to our earth, our environment, and also we can think about how our passion can be our career. And yeah, that's a inspiring story from you. And you
Well, thank
also.
you. Yeah, yeah, definitely. We all have a potential to encourage positive change, whether that's through inspiring others or just engaging in our own actions. And by that you can inspire others when they see the things that you're doing. And so there's so much potential there. And all of us, like you're saying, can be leaders in our own communities. There's definitely the opportunity for that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you also mentioned about you do a research on how people get interested to conserve their land. Can you share a little bit about it, about how people get interested to conserve their land?
Yeah, really, I was looking at working with people that owned large tracts of land, so primarily ranchers and those in the agricultural industry, and what encouraged them to enter their development rights into an easement. So that means that if they sold their land in perpetuity, so forever, that those development rights would be on the land. And so whoever bought it next would not be able to then develop it because it was a different person. The deed runs with the land. And so I was curious, what made people decide to do that? And there were a couple key factors, but a big part of why people entered into these agreements to conserve their land was having trust in the organization offering the conservation easement. So as someone working in the field of sustainability, I think about that a lot, the importance of trust and creating a sense of trust and belonging with our community. So speaking a language that they understand instead of an academic language that might be above some people's heads, or being able to ground down and be humble and admit our mistakes, admit things we don't know. And I think that creates a human element that's so important for people to establish trust. And so that definitely has stuck with me of when I think about that research with cattle ranchers um, and others in the agricultural industry, just how important that is now as a communicator of establishing that trust through the long, slow process at times of relationship building instead of just diving in and thinking people will adopt a program because I'm the expert and I come with all the answers. Instead, it's I'm a human being and let's have a conversation about our values and what's important to us and see if I can help you achieve your goals on your property. So it's definitely a different mindset than a top down. It's more of a bottom up type of thinking.
Yeah, thinking about the community is really important to make a connection between people, because yeah, we all are human being. We are living the earth and trying to do the better thing for, yeah, our earth day by day to live our life. And that's a wonderful thing. And yeah, like as I mentioned before that our topic talking about how to be happier and talking about the correlation between living sustainably and happiness. Can you share with us at what moment you realize that you are happy? And then can you give us some examples of how sustainable living can increase our happiness?
Yeah, so I think it's important for people to know and be aware of the fact that we have evolved as human beings, all of us, with a natural desire to want more. And that comes with our evolution, right? Because it's a form of security, having enough around you to survive. And so that basic desire, I don't think we should feel guilty about it. It's part of our genetic makeup, but we should be mindful of it, that desire, and be able to put it in check and think through what is it that I really need to be happy. And so if we close our eyes and we envision that, if you think of yourself in a moment where you're truly happy, you're laughing, you're feeling so grateful. It's probably with your friends, it's probably with your loved ones, and it could be out in nature. It probably doesn't cost very much, right? And so where where we should put that in check is we have a basic desire to want, but that want could be not in the form that commercials tell us, right? So the commercials we see on TV and the constant message of our capitalist system is we are broken as human beings and we need to purchase things to be happy. That's how capitalism thrives, right? Is by us feeling incomplete and then we keep purchasing and purchasing.
Mhm.
And so if we are conscious of that message, that that's an intentional message for us to buy products, then we can constantly put in check what it truly is that makes us happy. And what that generally is being with family, with loved ones, going out in nature. It costs a little bit to drive out somewhere to do something unless it's right in your backyard. But that is definitely something that is important to be mindful of. And so so when I'm feeling moments, as we all do, of oh, I don't have this or I don't have that, and they feel unhappy about the things that I don't have. I also need to check myself, and how I do that is in a what's called abundance thinking. It's an intentional process where you think through and really are conscious of the abundance around you. And this is also helps with climate anxiety. So when you see a plant or a flower growing in the cracks of a sidewalk, it's so incredible, right? How is that even happening? How is that plant surviving in that tiny crack of pavement in a sidewalk? Or when you see a ladybug on a plant and how beautiful that is, and those are moments where we're reminded of the abundance of beauty around us and also of food. So there's lots of edibles that grow all around us and in our communities. There's so much to be grateful for, and that is already there that we have in our lives. And that type of thinking is important for putting in check our desire to consume and also our anxiety about climate change. And so what I think is really important for people to do is to ground themselves in that gratitude through an intentional practice. One simple way to get that is when you wake up in the morning, and I do this myself, so I'm not just telling you something that I don't, but I wake up and I immediately write down 3 things I'm grateful for. So I'm a mom with 2 small children. I don't have a lot of time in the morning to do a half-hour meditation or something like that, which could be really effective for people. But for me, I wake up and I have to get my kids ready for school. I have to get to work, and there's a lot of chaos that happens in between all that. But I do carve out a few minutes first thing to first write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And then also I journal for about 5 minutes about my day yesterday and what I want to do to make today even better than yesterday. So something that maybe I I floundered on yesterday. Maybe I was in a bad mood or something, and what I'm hoping for that I could do for improvement that today. So the 5 minutes on that, and then the next thing I do is just write down a couple things that I want to get done during the day, so that I have that in mind. By the end of the day, I'm hoping to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And that basic practice for me every morning really helps to ground myself in gratitude, focus my mental energy so I'm not feeling so scattered. And that also creates hope, because what many people in the climate change movement are finding is that we can, at large, people can find hope in action. And so if I start my day with a list of a couple things that I'm hoping to accomplish that are meaningful to me, through my work and or through my actions in my community, then I work towards those. That keeps that sense of hope for me in this stage of environmental destruction that we're in. And so those are just some really simple things, but they're great starting points for people to get down this mindset of abundance thinking, gratitude thinking, instead of scarcity thinking and consumption thinking, which is what we've been trained on through the media that surrounds us.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story and great story about how we can be happy through gratitude, through appreciating things that we receive in our early morning maybe. This morning I also do the same thing like you do. So after I wake up, I thanks for today that I can wake up, today that I can still eat the food, today I can still do the many things that yeah maybe people around there cannot receive the thing I get, like get enough food maybe or clean water, because yeah climate change a lot of things and yeah impact on our environment, especially people got the effect of maybe floods or droughts. Yeah, a lot of a lot of maybe tragic thing happen because yeah the climate change and the disaster become more severe in this day. And yeah, I really agree with what you say before, that being gratitude with ourselves, with the thing that happen in life. And yeah, sometimes we tend to be reacting rather than observing what actually happened in our mind, what actually happened in our heart. And yeah, I think the power of observation of to our mind is really important rather than reacting to what television say, what the social media say. And yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good
you're well on
point.
that path, Nikita, just in your practice of um, observing that gratitude first thing. Um, And I think that's extremely important. And that mindful thinking that you're talking about, that mindfulness is such a critical um, part of this waking up
Mhm.
process, that we are being trained to act the way that we do in many aspects through the messaging that we constantly receive on social media and TV, et
Mhm.
cetera. So yeah, you're well on that journey as well. That's really great to hear.
Uh-huh. And yeah, sometimes television or social media just tell us we have a physical body to get maybe food or good shirt or good clothes. They forget, they try to make people forget that they have the spirit, that they need to grow really well, they need to preserve really well. And yeah, I think maybe from this podcast they can realize that they have a great spirit, they are gifted for yeah great thing in this life.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And talking about living sustainably, and I know that you have been work on communicating sustainability for many years and apply a lot of sustainability from your home and to your community. And can you tell us how you apply the sustainable living to your home, your motherhood, community, and your work?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. And I should have apologized at the beginning in case you hear background noise. I'm currently outside. It's a beautiful morning and just joining you from the outdoors. And so there is a little bit of noise now and then. Hopefully it's not too loud. So I I do try, I don't try, I interweave sustainability into so many parts of my life because I've seen so many benefits of it. And that's in contradiction, like we talked about before, of the lost messaging of sustainability. So as you mentioned at the very start, so often communicating sustainability involves, give up your car, don't eat meat, don't do this, take shorter showers, don't do that. And that's so that's scarcity and loss thinking that people are naturally, because of how we've evolved, they back away from that, and it's not very effective. And so what I found is there's so many benefits to these behaviors, and that also just creates so much happiness that hopefully that inspires other people. And I've seen that in my work, that it does inspire people to be living this way and show the benefits of that. So let's talk about the home first. So in my home in Utah, we built our home about 10 years ago. It's a straw bale home, and so we used straw bales for the insulation, which has a higher insulative value than conventional building. And it's also an agricultural byproduct. So the farmer still can profit off of the harvest. So let's say it's wheat. They harvest the wheat heads, and then the stalks of the straw of the wheat, we turn into bales and then use that in our walls. So they get a double benefit of you buying that. So it helps uplift our local farming community as well. And then our home is natural plasters, natural floors. So we use earthen floors and bamboo upstairs for the flooring. And we didn't run any gas line to our house, so we have no gas coming to the house. I didn't want to support the fossil fuel industry that way because it seemed unnecessary. And instead, we are 100% electric home, and we have solar panels that feed the grid solar energy. So we're producing more solar energy than we use in the home. Because we live in the desert and there's so little rain, we don't have a dryer because things dry so fast outside on the clothesline. Basically, when you're done hanging your laundry in the summer, you can start taking it down because it's already dry. And so we didn't bother with a dryer with that electric use, and instead use the sun as our clothes dryer. And we also harvest our rainwater in our home. So we have 9.5 inches of rain a year, which doesn't sound like hardly any, but there's still a huge abundance with that, like I mentioned. So I ran the calculations thanks to a permaculture designer called Brad Lancaster. He has this great calculation for looking at your roof size and an average rain event in your area and what you could harvest off of that roof based on that rainfall. So I looked at a very small roof size, smaller than my own, of 1,000 square feet. And if you have a small roof and you have a small rain event, so in the US, we have the system where we're using feet and inches, et cetera. So this might be confusing, but if we have a small amount of like half an inch of rain and that falls on our roof, we can harvest a huge amount of water with that rain. It's 500 gallons of approximately of rain we could harvest into a tank. So we have a rain tank on our property that we use that water to irrigate our landscape when it's dry. And we also have drip irrigation around the outside additional plants. In the front of our landscape, everything's watered by our shower water and our laundry water. So it's a gray water system that in the state of Utah, I put into the home and formed a team to help overhaul Utah's gray water policy because it used to be very complicated to do gray water, which means taking water from your shower or your laundry and using it to water your landscape. Now it's a lot easier because we fixed the policy in the state of Utah where you can now gravity feed that water through just a simple pipe out to your landscape at a 2-inch grade. And that pipe just feeds the root systems of your plants. So when I shower laundry, I could feel guilty and be like, I need to take shorter showers. I didn't want that guilt in my everyday life. It's like, well, let me think at a bigger systems level. When I shower, where does that water go if I don't have a gray water system? What's that process look like? And then what can I do to fix that process so I don't feel so guilty every time I take a shower and use that water? Well, what I could do is have that water feed food producing plants like cherry trees I have two cherry trees, a peach tree, a nectarine. And so now I don't need to feel guilty about taking shorter showers. Instead, that shower water feeds my landscape and grows food for my family that we consume. So this is that systems level thinking or permaculture design thinking where we look at creating systems that feed themselves and take care of themselves in a way that we are a positive part of it. So instead of feeling like a parasite on my landscape, I'm now helping my landscape by engaging in my normal behaviors of showering and things like that. And that's growing the plants that then feed our family. So that's some examples of the home. For the neighborhood that our home is in, we are in a walking, biking only neighborhood. And I love that with my kids. They're able to run around outside and not worry about cars. And so it's a bike centric neighborhood. I bike to get my groceries. I bike commute all over town, and I just love biking as a form of commute. With motherhood, I have two small boys, and I did use cloth diapers with them when they were little. And importantly, I don't like wasting the resources and money on buying them all these new things that we're told we need to do as a mom. So they don't need half the stuff, first of all. And then second of all, so many people already have stuff with their kids that they're wanting to offload. So we just put feelers out on social media of like, hey, our kid's getting into size 6. Does anyone have any boys size 6 clothes that they don't want anymore? And we'll either buy that or they'll get it for free instead of having to buy all that from the store. And so I think first through what resources exist in my community that people are not needing, and how could I benefit them and myself by using those resources first, as opposed to just going on Amazon or shopping online, for example. So that's some examples with motherhood. For activities with motherhood, I often take my kids camping, and we engage in nature that way, a deep immersion in nature. And even just after school, I take them on hikes and engaging in nature and swimming in our creek systems or playing with rocks and trying to find dinosaur bones. And so those are things that kids just love, and they don't cost anything. I could take them to a local pool or something like that. And I do that sometimes, but one, it costs money. Two, they have as much fun playing in our free creek as they do at the pool. And so I constantly think through these things of what will help my children grow into caring and effective adults through a deep immersion in nature, and also helping with community volunteer events. And then also, in the end, it saves us money too, because we're not constantly having to pay for our kids to go do things that they would be just as happy playing outside. So with the community, just a couple quick things over the years. So I noticed in Moab, we were having a lot of plastic bags everywhere. I don't know if in Indonesia you deal with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
plastic bags was a big problem, and it was starting to bug me. I was biking on the bike path, and I'd see plastic bags up in the trees that had blown around, and I was like, you know what? We don't need plastic bags. We just don't need them. And one community in Moab already passed a plastic bag ban. And so I looked at what they did, and I rewrote their policy for all businesses in the Moab city limits, and got reached out to the community, said, hey, I think our community is beautiful. I love biking around town, but I'm seeing plastic bags everywhere, and it's taking away from the beauty of this community. So I communicated it as, this trash is jeopardizing the beauty of our community, instead of like, we're all bad, we shouldn't be doing this. I didn't have guilt messaging. It was just like, I want to preserve the beauty of Moab. Does anyone else want to support this? And I got so many signatures and interest on the plastic bag ban proposal, and proposed it to the city council, and it passed in 2018, I believe. So Moab now is a plastic bag free community, and that was just an easy thing to do that helped the community at large to decrease our waste, our unnecessary waste. And I mentioned bike commuting as a thing that I do for my work. I also love volunteering in community events. We have a local farm that does a weed and feed, it's called. So every other Wednesday, You go and you weed for an hour. So you help them because they're an organic farm. They don't spray pesticides. They use manual labor to pull the weeds out, and they need extra help sometimes. So many people show up, help pull the weeds. And then we all sit down together. They have a chef come in and cook a meal with farm produce that we all sit and eat the meal together. And I just love that because you have conversations with people next to you that you might never have met before in your community. And it's just a great way of growing a sense of belonging and connection in community while helping the environment and the local food system. So I also host things like potlucks and clothing swaps, and I go to those that my friends are hosting. So those are great ways to grow community that are sustainability focused. So yeah, with work, I started the permaculture initiative in 2013. And that has been a great way to show people the benefits of ecological design and ecological thinking. And we have teaching gardens and we teach about permaculture design. I also run an initiative called the Utah Farmers Market Network, and we uplift the local food movement across the state of Utah because we really need to preserve farmland from development to keep a healthy environment and also keep healthy food growing in our local systems. So I work a lot to preserve our local food movement. And then I also help a statewide initiative that I co-run with a colleague, Ed Stafford, called the Utah High School Clean Air Marketing Contest. And we teach high schoolers about Utah's air pollution problems with the inversion. And then they tap into their knowledge of pop culture to create effective public service announcements or ads for clean air. And so they play off of many messages like Star Wars or Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's been a play in the past, and just funny things like Taylor Swift, for example, and they spin it towards clean air messaging, and that's been a great thing that we've reached thousands of kids every year at this point in the contest, and something that I love doing with my job. And our campus is also a net negative energy building, the Moab campus, and we have rain gardens all around campus that were inspired by the work that I did in the permaculture initiative. So definitely it interweaves into all aspects of my lives, and that's just, or my life, and that's just a couple examples of that. And hopefully that's helpful for the audience.
And I love to hear about when about the thing that the community play an important role when maybe you did a clothes for 6-year-old kids, and you ask, maybe we can ask, is there someone that uh, have 6-year-old clothes and they don't use it anymore and can give to the other people? And that's a wonderful, I think that's a wonderful thing, that rather than we thinking about um have a happier life by receiving the thing, maybe we can also think about having a happier life by giving and also receiving things. So it have two paths, maybe two, yeah, two direction of being happy. Not only receive but also give the thing. And yeah, even though I think money is so important, but when we lose the connection with ecosystem, nature, people, we lose everything. And that's the thing that you explain with us through your neighborhood, your home, the sustainable living through your neighborhood, and then through your community, your work, and yeah, from a lot of aspects that you explained with us. And yeah, that's a wonderful thing to hear that. And yeah,
Thank you.
uh, mhm. And talking about educating the community to live sustainable, how do you educate those around you about sustainable living? And what is the fun way to educate others about sustainable living?
Yeah, so again, it comes down to abundance communication or what you can gain by the behavior, right? So I'll just use one example of, let's say, biking. So if I want more people in my community to bike, first you have to think through from the perspective of that community, what are the benefits they get from biking? or they would get from biking? What are the barriers they have to biking? Then you look at the current behavior. Let's say they're driving by themselves as their form of getting around. So what do they see as the benefits of that? And what do they see as the barriers to that of driving? And then you use effective messaging to increase the perceived benefits of the behavior that you're trying to push for. So that's biking, let's say, in this example. And then you want to play up as well the barriers of their current behavior. So all the miserable things about driving. It's expensive to maintain a car. It's lonely, and it's you don't get to exercise at all. You're just sitting there. So those are some examples. You drive around looking for a parking spot. It's stressful. And so you want to play up those perceived barriers. Then you also want to address as many of the barriers of the current behavior as possible. Let's say people are worried about safety on a bike. They don't have the proper equipment. So how can you help them get what they need, whether that's the education they need to learn proper bike safety, and proper behaviors when biking, and also the equipment they need. So if they need a helmet, maybe you could do some sort of community fundraiser where you raise money for helmets and you give them out to people if that's the biggest barrier. And then you also want to try to ignore as many in your marketing campaign benefits of the current behavior. So people like driving because it's independent and it's what they're used to. It's a habit, whatever those are. We don't want to play those up in our marketing campaign, right? Because we want to make driving look bad and we want to make biking look great. So the thing about biking is research constantly has shown that biking is associated with the ability to focus better when you arrive at work, so you have better mental cognition. It's also associated with positive psychological health, so you feel better, you're happier when you're biking. You interact with your environment a lot more closely, so you engage with the smells, or you stop and talk to a neighbor while you're biking, which you're much less likely to do if you're in a car. And so there's so many benefits of biking that you can play up when communicating that, instead of just being like, this is what you should do, it's better for the earth. No, let's actually get at human behavior and look at the benefits and barriers to each behavior, and then use effective marketing to play up the behavior we want to encourage. And there's certain things you can tap into, like social norms and incentives for people, and using effective communication, making it as convenient as possible. These are all tied to a framework that I teach in my class called community-based social marketing with Doug Mackenzie Moore. And so we can really use effective techniques that get people excited to engage in a behavior with a campaign. So those are ways to make it fun for people, is to break down the barriers of the behavior, and play up the barriers of the current behavior. There's a very loud bird that wants to chime in my talking here. So, and then also to play up the benefits of that behavior you're advocating for. So I would just stop with that, and hopefully that's helpful for people.
Yeah. And I think that is the concept, that is also the concept of mindfulness. We try to slowing down the thing to get productive by the concept of the biking, the example of biking that you uh, mentioned before. And I really love the concept of biking. And yeah, we try to provide the benefit of doing this sustainable thing, and yeah, trying to show the maybe the thing that capitalism show, that by using this you can get this benefit. But yeah, we can also see the disadvantage of doing maybe capitalism thing. And yeah, we can also see the influence to our earth system, our climate. And yeah, trying to see the thing from different perspective, make us try to observe again, oh, this is good for me and this is not good for me. Yeah, that's is the good thing. And yeah, as we mentioned before, that community is playing an important role in yeah sustainable living. And you also mentioned about how you can educate the sustainable living in community. But actually, from your perspective, what is the community role in supporting sustainable living?
Yeah, there's definitely a two-way relationship. So I think the biggest thing as a leader in sustainability, and which all of us can be, the way that community can engage in sustainability is to provide fun opportunities for them to do so, or at least make aware, if people are already providing them, make people aware that those exist. So people want to belong in community. We need that sense of belonging in place to feel passionate about place and be more likely to want to preserve place. So belonging is really one of the essential things we need to help create for people. And so invite them to events, and they will come. People will come if you create a fun event. So don't guilt them into action. We don't need more guilt with climate change and the destructive lifestyles that we already know are around us, right? So we don't need to feel more guilty. We need to um, feel that sense of belonging and connection through action for positive hope for environmental change. And so provide food and drinks for events, bring local musicians in to play music while you're doing something, whether that's a community cleanup or if you're engaging in some sort of a talk about the environment, have at the talk some free food and things like that. Get people excited through coming through successful social media and marketing techniques of, like I mentioned, of social norms and incentives and things like that. Show a community leader engage in these behaviors. So if there's someone in your community that people really are inspired by, whether that's an Olympic athlete or if it's someone who's influential, like a member of a band that people really like, uplift them when you see, like have them be a communicator for your cause. So whether they're biking somewhere to get where they're going, show that that's happening. Oh, look at this great like influential person in our community who's also doing these behaviors, and people will be more excited to engage as well. So there's definitely ways to make this more fun, and food and drinks and music go a long way in uplifting influential people as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you that rather than trying to talk about what people don't like, maybe we can talk about what people love about, and maybe they will feel involved and appreciated with their presence, their existence through serving what they really love about. And that's a part of being happier in life, right? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And yeah, I have a question about what enjoyable things that we can do with our community to live sustainably. Maybe from your perspective, what is the maybe the most enjoyable thing that you experience to live sustainably with your community?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. So I also, at times when I'm nodding or I'm saying, yeah, I have myself muted just because of the birds and everything around me. I don't want it to be too loud in the background. So just for our audience, if you're just listening in, then just know that I'm agreeing entirely with what Nikita is saying, and you definitely have gone a long way in this thinking already. So just a little perspective there for folks that are just listening in. But okay, so what are some things that we can do? This was the question, right? So what could we do in our community to help build that sense of community, that belonging? Is that what you're hoping for, Nikita? Okay, so some great starting points for people could be things like clothing swaps. So I love clothing swaps. In fact, everything I have on right now is secondhand, except for
Yeah.
my shoes. I bought my shoes new a few years ago. So this shirt is from a clothing swap, and my pants and my jacket. Well, my jacket I bought used off of someone online that it's a Patagonia jacket that someone was selling for $15. And so I bought that. And then my pants are from a thrift store. And so I love buying used clothes. It's a great, you're taking that off of someone's hands who doesn't want it anymore. You're not contributing to the destructive aspects of our clothing industry. And also it feels better for me because I save money, and It's just there's so many benefits of that. But even better than buying used clothes is to host a party where you bring your friends together and you everyone brings their clothes they don't want, and you provide, let's say, food and drink at your house, or have people bring food and drink to contribute. So it's a potluck, and they bring their clothes, and you have one table, you've got shirts, one table skirts and pants or whatever, and one table dresses, and you kick the boys out of the house, so it's a ladies' night. And you could also do it co-ed. You could have men as well. Our community does co-ed ones as well. I like doing both. So with the women's clothing swap, it's great because you're trying clothes on, you're laughing together, you're laughing at what people put on. Maybe it's got a funny fit, or and they're making a joke about it, or you're saying, wow, that looks beautiful on you, you should definitely keep that. And you go home with a new wardrobe that's someone's old wardrobe, and it's just a win-win. So I love clothing swaps as a starting point. Potlucks are another thing if you want to go more simple. So you could just make one basic meal and then ask people to bring things that would go along with that meal, whether it's a dessert or a side salad or whichever. And you bring everyone together to eat a communal meal. This has been something that we've done since time immemorial, and we need to do more often, is eat as a community. Another example, this is involves a little bit more planning, but is to do something like a perma blitz, it's called, or you flip someone's landscape in a day. So let's say there's a parking strip that's just grass, and you as a community come together, and if you have 40 people, you can turn that into a beautiful ecological garden in one day by digging a swale into that parking strip, planting perennial plants that are going to grow in there and work together like an ecosystem. Maybe you've got some that are fixing nitrogen, some that are accumulating nutrients from the soil, others that are attracting pollinators and food producers, and that's all growing now together in sync. So those are some examples of things that we could do as starting points for engaging in behaviors.
Yeah, I agree with you that maybe this is the concept of when we do the thing alone, maybe we can be happy when we accomplish it. But when we do the thing together, we can be happier because we make a memory with people. We can laugh together, eat together. That's the important thing of community, that we are the social organism. So we need each other to get help, get supported, maybe get involved. And that's such a great thing that we can appreciate every day because we meet people every day and we can laugh together. We can share what's going on with our lives together, and we can make memories. And back to our topic, we can be happier by, yeah, do the positive thing with the community. And thank you so much
Yeah,
for
definitely. And
Mhm.
yeah, I was just gonna say that during the pandemic, it was so lonely, and people are really longing to come back together. And so I think you'll see a lot of gratitude if you do provide that opportunity for people to come together and share a space, because we all want more of that in our lives. So it's a huge opportunity.
And thank you so much for sharing those positive things, and yeah, sharing positive energy through your insightful thing. And do you have any message or advice for young leader who want to start living sustainably before we
I
end
would
this podcast?
say
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely would just say to be easy on yourself. You're living within a destructive system, so it can feel discouraging at times. So be easy on yourself. And my biggest advice would be to ground yourself in gratitude. Start with a morning practice of just writing down three things you're feeling grateful for when you first wake up. And that sets your day off in a positive mindset. So that morning practice can go a long way, and it just takes a few seconds to, if you just do the basic of three things you're feeling grateful for, that's fantastic. So for our young leaders, I would start there to start shifting the mindset from scarcity and anxiety into hope and gratitude and abundance. So that would be my biggest tip.
Shift. Yeah, I think this is the important thing that I want to repeat rather than thinking about the scarcity and anxiety in our life. Let's move it into hope, gratitude, and abundance abundance in our life, and that's make our life become happier than before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing those positive things. I really love to listen to your insightful thing, because I think we as a young leader need educator like you to share about what actually we need to do to live our life, because yeah, our system say about a lot about the capitalism and make us more feel anxiety and depressed because of the pressure that we got from the system, that we need to work hard for money, not for contributing the thing. And people now maybe live more individualism, just they just need to work for themselves and think that we have no connection with others. But the important thing here is we have a strong connection with human, with nature, and yeah, we need to think about that. And by thinking about the connection, we can be happier, because it's not about the receiving thing, but it also about giving thing that make you feel happier, because happier is not from outside but also from inside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from the heart. Yeah.
And I also want to thank our audience for coming to our podcast, and hopefully the thing that we discuss is podcast give you a positive energy, and you can gain a lot of joyful energy in your life. And before we close our podcast, we usually do this jargon. So, oops. When I say salam and yeah, say superhero together. So I will count 1, 2, 3, and I say salam and we say superhero together. Are you ready, Miss Roslyn, to do that?
I'm ready.
Okay, so let's do that. I will count 1, 2, 3. Salam,
Superhero.
superhero. Yay! Thank you so much, Miss Rosin, for sharing a lot of insightful thing. And for our audience, stay tuned with our next episode, because we will share with you a lot of joyful thing and positive thing that you can do in your life. Thank you and see you then. Bye bye.